easy way for some of these platforms to collect easy money, but not necessarily best for the business owner that is like, hey, I'll boost this post for $200 and then sit back and pray.
I'm going to go hire a business development manager, business development person. Like, okay, great. What are they going to do? And they start listing out, well, they're going to do my social media, and they're going to do networking, and they're going to do my admin, and they're going to send emails, and they're going to do Facebook ads because we want to do that. And they're going to do, and they're going to do, and they're going to do. I'm like, well, how in the world are they going to be exceptional at any of those?
A lot of business owners they don't worry about the data. They don't look at the data. They are spending time running their business, trying to deal with all the challenges day in and day out. And unless you start to like really point out like, hey, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, the wake-up call finally comes.
We still need to be spending just as much time focused on Facebook and Instagram and having our names or our business tied to that, because if you're going to be typing into any level of search thing, and if those things are being cataloged, that's what's going to be served. If you're a business owner spending money on Facebook ads and not getting results, then this episode is going to save you thousands. Today, I'm sitting down with Bill Combs, the founder of No Time for Social, a company that's been quietly generating millions of dollars in revenue for local businesses using smart, budget-conscious Facebook strategies. Bill's not some theory-driven agency guy. He's a seasoned operator and a board member with over 25 years of experience across industries like healthcare, finance, roofing, and more. He understands business, not just marketing, and that's exactly why I wanted him on the show today. In this episode, we break down what's actually working on Facebook today, why most ad dollars are wasted, and how small business owners like you can run campaigns that get real results without burning cash. So whether you've been burned by agencies in the past or you're ready to finally make paid ads a part of your growth engine, this one's for you. Bill, why do paid ads fail?
Proper planning, improper planning. So I would say improper planning is probably the biggest thing. So there's two sort of sides to that. There's improper planning, but then there's also what I would call the ease of being able to run an ad as a business owner and not necessarily knowing the ins and outs of what you really need to do to build, run, and execute a proper ad in order for it to have the outcome that you're looking for. So what I'm referencing is the boost post, right? Easiest way to run an ad, easy way for some of these platforms to collect easy money, but not necessarily best for the business owner that is like, hey, I'll boost this post for $200 and then sit back and pray.
That's so interesting, and I'd love your take on this, because I think I just was doing a little bit of research for this conversation, and one of the ways I do research is I'll go into whether it's Instagram or some of the other channels, and I'll just type in Facebook ads. I'll type in kind of the topic we're going to be talking about and see what's trending. What are some of the content that's out there? And a couple of them were people that are speaking and teaching on, say, Facebook ads specifically, and or paid ads in general, and they've got their 5-step. You start with these things. The first one that they come off with is boosted post. So why is boosted post maybe not the best place to start for a business that's serious about looking at paid ads?
Most of the time the boosted posts that get boosted are not necessarily the best creative, and they're not formatted in a way text-wise to get that desired outcome. So you have posts that you put out on Facebook as a business day in and day out, and then you get excited about, oh, this is a really cool image maybe, but the text doesn't align with the outcome. So now you're boosting it, and you're getting obviously some visibility to it, but if the end user, who is, by the way, getting swamped with all kinds of ads, a lot of them bad in their feed, if you can't get that person to stop in their tracks and look at that ad and say, I'm going to make a decision about this, yes or no, you're dead in the water. So that is the big problem. And even with paid ads, if you're not doing it correctly, it almost has the same effect of a boost post. So we, I've mentioned to you that we're working with a new client here in Round Rock, and they had an agency overseas in Serbia, and they were running ads, and you're able to look at the ads, by the way, on Facebook. So there's a way to go in and you can Google it. It's the Facebook ads archive, and you can go into that archive and you can look at various ads that are running currently on pages. So I went in, met with this client, we looked at the ads that are running. Terrible ad. The image had so much text on it, there's no way that anyone would be able to read it. The text was terrible in the ad. It went to a landing page on their website, which was not going to convert anybody, and that was exactly the case. They spent $1,000, no conversions. We moved them over to really cool graphic about birthday parties and really engaging, where you can kind of see the context of it. Very good call to action, very good button to get people to click. All of a sudden, boom, 100 leads over 2 months. So cool. If you're not intentional about what the outcome is, you can click boost post all day long, and you're going to be sitting around going, I don't really know what's going on. But on the flip side, if you don't know anything about that process that we did to set up that lead ad campaign, you're also going to be struggling. So it's tough for the business owner, and I feel for them. But for me, I think I've told you before, the day that Facebook allowed you to start running ads, I've been running ads. So I've been through all of it 10 times over.
Well, that's really interesting, and with some of the things that you said there, you speak very technically with regards to how the ads are set up, what the call to action needs to be. Like there's clearly a wealth of knowledge that's sitting underneath the surface in this conversation. I'm really excited to dig into. But knowing that, how did you get so good at paid ads? How did you get good at Facebook ads specifically? Obviously, you mentioned that you've been doing this for a while, but give us a little bit of history on why we're sitting down and talking about this today, because you clearly have the knowledge base sitting there.
Yeah. Well, I think what it boils down to is the decision to focus our business on being very, very targeted with what we wanted to do with the business. And, as much as I complain about Facebook, it has allowed me to make a living. And if we say Facebook, it really means Facebook, Instagram, because all ads are run through that Instagram as well. But being very targeted and knowing what I was able to do. And by the way, when I started running ads with Facebook, it was with Anything Weather, my prior company. So we were running ads to get roofers to purchase our maps. And I probably ran $50,000 in ad spend in 2009, 2010 timeframe. So I dove in 100%, learned it with that other company. And then, of course, when I left there and all the roofers said, hey, can you manage my Facebook page? I immediately transitioned into running ads for some of these roofing companies and really just stayed very, very focused on what I wanted to do, right? I didn't want to build websites. I didn't want to do SEO. I didn't want to do any kind of print. Let's just stay focused at making ourselves the best at this particular platform setup. And as long as we're the best, or the best that we feel we can be, we will give that value to the end user, and the end user will be happy, and then obviously spread the word. So I mentioned this company that we started working with 2 months ago. They've already referred another one of the franchises that they work with in Frisco, and the Frisco person I just talked to said, we're going to spread the word to everyone. So the fact that it is difficult and the fact that it is very technical, these individuals that own these companies and start these companies, there's no way to gather that knowledge without doing it over a long period of time. So I feel for them, right? That's why I'm holding a class in 2 days in Round Rock here to try to teach people what the difficulties are with getting all this stuff set up. And I do plan on doing more of those in the future because for me, I love teaching, I love helping people. And the more I can help people and spread the word, the better everybody is. And, it's just good outcomes for everybody.
Yeah, I want to highlight that you mentioned not only being able to run ads for other clients. I mean, doing this for a while, but you started running ads for another company that was your company. You were really a technician doing it, and learned it from the seat of actually doing it versus just this theory. And I kind of figured out some stuff, and now I'm teaching it.
Yeah.
And you come with this knowledge and understanding of the business side, not just the advertising platform. How do you bring that business knowledge into running Facebook ads for other businesses? Because I think this is a really important component for the audience to understand. Is you've got this business mind that helps connect the dots. So how do you bring that into the process for how you think about running ads today?
Yeah, I've never really thought about it that way, but it does lead to me thinking as the business owner and not as a marketing company trying to get dollars from somebody. So I think and I've been on that side of it, of owning a business, running a business. Obviously, this is my second, what I would call larger business that I've run as far as revenue, anything, whether in now No Time for Social. But I think putting myself in their shoes allows me to understand the pain and anxiety that they go through when they spend money and the outcome is not necessarily what they're looking for, and then they get frustrated, right? So, part of my challenge when I'm talking with new businesses is the fact that if they've been burned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times, it's really tough to get them to understand that we may be different. So when I can bring that ownership side to it, saying, hey, listen, I understand, even though I run a marketing company, I also understand the outcome side of it, and knowing every dollar you spend needs to be spent the best way possible. I can't promise miracles, but what I can tell you is I will promise that we will implement the systems and the processes that we've used for all of our other clients to be successful. And that knowledge is not something that's freely out there, right? You can look at a bunch of YouTube videos. You can, everything changes so quick that a YouTube video 6 months ago may not show you the right way to do things. So I think that's where maybe my angle is a little bit different, is the business owner understanding, hey, I truly care about this stuff, right? You're not just a number. You're not just, paying my company to get revenue in. I want you to be successful. So when I can put myself in their shoes and I take that accountability on my side, which is one of our core values at No Time for Social, I think that resonates with at least a certain group of people. Maybe smaller business owners than maybe larger ones. But that's really where my passion will help drive some of those conversations. And I feel like in a lot of the relationships that I've started with clients has really kind of helped out there. So that's a really good question.
And not to have you necessarily throw any of your competitors under the bus, but I am going to ask a quick question here, because we deal with a lot of business owners. I have lots of conversations with different businesses out there, and I don't know that I have met a business owner yet that has not been burned by a marketing agency of some form, right? Whether it's somebody that's trying to run paid ads for them or not in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. And I've had the privilege to know you for a while now, Bill, and I've connected with a few of your clients, and they always have just amazing things to say about No Time for Social and the work that y'all do. So why is it so many businesses end up getting burned at some point in time when working with maybe some other marketing agencies out there?
I think it depends on the size of the agency and what their end goal is. And a lot of agencies, their end goal is, we need to bring in enough revenue to pay our team members. And if it's at the expense of clients, that's okay because there's always more clients. And that hurts, right? It hurts. Because yeah, there are going to be always more clients. There's always new businesses starting up. All those new businesses are going to get blasted when they register with we do a search weekly. I have my VA over in the Philippines doing searches for all the new businesses, and of course they're going to get hit up with mailers and all kinds of stuff when you start a new business. At some point, they're going to get, unfortunately, suckered into one of these with a great salesperson that could sell them on the miracle, and then the miracle doesn't happen, and then they're like, okay, well now that I got marketed by all these companies and I picked one and it didn't work, now I'm going to go out and do some research and try to find one. So then they interview 3 or 4. Problem is they don't know what questions to ask. So then they move into the next company that says, oh yeah, they didn't do this for you, we're going to do it. Then they try to do it, and maybe they are successful, right? We wish success for everyone, but more often than not, the mighty dollar is at the top of the list. They may have, and if it's a larger agency, let's say 20 or 30 people, right? They're churning as well, right? They're trying to get new clients in. They'll risk losing 5 or 6 clients because they know 5 or 6 new clients are going to come in. And then if they are a broad-based agency, we do SEO, we do print, we do this, we do that. They have 17 different offerings. How in the world are they going to be experts in that one thing that is either going to bring leads in, bring traffic to their website, bring some kind of sales? So that, I think, is where a lot of it sort of kind of comes together. I'll give you a quick example of a company that doesn't exist anymore. Michaela works for No Time for Social. Before Michaela came to No Time for Social, she worked for a company called Main Street Hub. Main Street Hub was bought out by GoDaddy. When she worked for Main Street Hub had the retention team just like Sprint phones did back in the day, right? Customer retention team. AT&T has it. I just mentioned the cell phone carriers because they're the ones with the big, we need to get them up. Let me get you over to the retention specialist, right? Main Street Hub would charge money. They would promise the world. And, Michaela had 70 clients that she needed to produce content for. Well, how can you do that? How can you do that effectively without losing the quality? And I don't even think they ran ads. It was just a content factory. So I think those are a couple points there as to how the business owners get burned, right? They get marketed to, they pick somebody, then they find their own company themselves, and then after 3 or 4 of those, they're like, if they reach out to me by accident, right, I may promise, but hopefully I deliver. And that's my goal, is to say, doesn't matter what happened in the past, let's work together. And that's why I only do 30-day month-to-month contracts. And 2 of our original companies have been with us since we started 15 and a half years ago.
That's incredible. This is a really fascinating piece because, you've mentioned a couple times specialization. I mean, in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah.
And I can totally visualize some of these other, agencies out there. They're a team of 3 people, but they have 17 offerings. It's like, if I was building an internal team and I was actually building a business that was going to grow, not this kind of makeshift, really teeny tiny business that never grows, and we can talk for days on that.
Yeah.
But you think about, I'm going to build out a true marketing department, right? The process would be, I stop hiring generalists. I start looking for these specialists on the team that I can bring in to do a specialist role. Yep. The example that comes to mind for me on the business side, and I think this, if you're a business owner listening to this, this might resonate with you, and why this ties into the rest of our conversation here. But I talked to so many people like, oh, I'm going to go hire a business development manager or business development person. Like, okay, great. What are they going to do? And they start listing out, well, they're going to do my social media, and they're going to do networking, and they're going to do my admin, and they're going to send emails, and they're going to do Facebook ads because we want to do that, and they're going to do, and they're going to do, and they're going to do. I'm like, well, how in the world are they going to be exceptional at any of those? And the role usually, rotates so fast and all that kind of stuff. They just churn people through it because nobody can realistically do that job. It does not exist, especially for the amount of money that most, people get paid to do that job.
Yeah.
So you look at that from the context of what you just shared with us. You have a big agency that has all these different offerings and all this kind of stuff, but they're a team of 2, 3, 4 people, or you've got one person responsible 70 relationships.
Yep.
How can you expect that? So I want to dovetail that into the fact that you have mentioned specialization. You have mentioned focus on specific things, not just paid ads, but even doubling down into the Facebook ad side of things. So I want to ask that question. What is the difference between Google ads and Facebook ads?
So it's pretty cut right down the middle as to what the difference is. A lot of people, if you ask 100 business owners today what the difference is, 95 of them are going to get it wrong, which is crazy, right? Because you would think a business owner, as much digital marketing as goes on nowadays, they'd be like able to say, well, this is what it is. Google is pull. What I mean by that is somebody goes out, Bill Combs is searching for a roofer in Round Rock. Bill Combs is searching for we just got 2 new kittens. I'm looking for a new vet in Round Rock, so veterinarians in Round Rock. I'm looking for a restaurant, right? So obviously Google owns sort of that space with the maps, space with reviews. They do a great job with that. So that's Google. I'm going out and I'm looking for something as a person. For now, and we'll touch on the ChatGPT stuff in a little bit. So that's what's happening right now. I'm even transitioning away from that. But Facebook ads is push, which is why you have to have a specialist. You're pushing content into the feed. And if I'm sitting on my Facebook feed and I'm looking at all the crappy sponsored ads coming through, I need to be able to make an impact with my creative. I need to be able to make an impact with the audience that I am delivering those ads to. And those ads have to be really, really good in order for somebody to click on the ad and become a prospect, visit a website, get picked up by the pixels so I can retarget them later on. It's much harder to be very good at that than it is to just launch some Google ads. Which, by the way, Google does have some push that happens, right? They'll push out ads through their Google Max, which, again, have a little bit of hesitation running just because I think they're pushed everywhere and it's kind of messy and who the hell knows where they're getting their audiences from or how they're delivering them. We have a ton of challenges right now with Google ads not being able to deliver to specific areas that we're selecting, which also happens on Facebook. But if you don't know what the heck you're doing on Facebook, you shouldn't be running ads because you're going to click boost post and it's going to fail and you're going to be mad and you're just disappointed. And you don't need to be disappointed. So that's the difference. People are looking for content versus being delivered content.
I like that. I think that's a really simple way to frame it. Push versus pull. I had heard the difference between intention-based versus interruption, which is really the same basic thing there. But I don't know if you know the answer to this, but what's kind of going through my head now is Google is almost exclusively intent-based, or people are searching for something. Yeah. The thing that comes to my mind is is that still true for YouTube ads? And I wonder if it is. Is it still really search-based because most of the ads that they're going to show are going to be based on your search history within YouTube being the second. I don't know with ChatGPT anymore, but before that, right, it was the second largest search engine behind Google. And both are owned by the Google parent company there. What's your thought on that? Is that still really an intent-based versus a true interruption or push-based?
Well, I think that's where Google picked up on what Facebook was doing and said, hey, let's fire up this Performance Max ad because then we're going to sort of tie into what Facebook is doing where we can push content through YouTube. Because again, when I'm on YouTube now, when I'm looking at YouTube videos, I'm getting delivered ads. So there's clearly a push of that ad into my feed where I'm not searching for something. I would say 50 to 60% of the time, at least on mine, they're relevant, but some of them are completely irrelevant. So that goes back to the whole Google Performance Max and them using data that in some cases may not be 100% true for what they're delivering to the end user. So obviously they have to use data to deliver that, but sometimes the data can be corrupt or even, I wouldn't call it manipulated, but it's just may not be as clean as what Google thinks it is, right? In order to deliver those ads. So, if you have a computer that's used by 10 different people, well, if Google's tracking everything, now you're getting ads for all kinds of stuff. And that happens across the board. So I get Hispanic ads because Ileana's Hispanic. So I get ads in Spanish, not only on Google, but I also get ads in Spanish, and this is really far out there, but on Sling. So we use Sling for TV. So I'll have an ad on TBS if I'm watching like a Mets game, and it'll come on and it'll be a Hispanic ad for like Covert Hutto, all in Spanish because Ileana's Hispanic, and they know that. So again, the data will drive that, but I think there's too much data at this point, and a lot of it may be not as clean. So it's very, very messy in my opinion.
That's interesting. Very interesting. That'll be even more interesting as we get into the topic of AI and chat tools and things like that. But before we go down that rabbit hole, I want to stick on some of this Facebook ad stuff that I think would be relevant for the audience. And you kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier with the different types of call to action, the different types of ads that can be run. I think you'd mentioned lead ads, but when you look at this intent based or this push versus pull type of an ad. What type of offers tend to work best? And maybe talk to us a little bit about the different types of ads that can be run on Facebook. From do we pull them into a landing page? Is it better to do a lead ad where they're filling out a form?
Yep.
Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So again, the layman, 95 out of 100 business owners would not know that there's essentially, and this has changed. There used to be 13 or 20 different campaign objectives way back in the day. I wish I had screenshots of those, which I probably have somewhere. But that has now narrowed down to 6 different types of campaign objectives. And out of those 6, I would say at least 5 of them could be relevant to the business owner. One of them is app promotion. So most people are not selling apps, right? So there is an app promotion. There is a sales campaign. So if you're trying to get people to buy stuff, I mentioned to you earlier that I've got a little passion project now that I'm using a sales campaign on. So there's a sales campaign, there's a lead campaign, there's an engagement campaign. So if you wanted people to engage with your content more, Facebook's trying to push it to people, again, based on all of their data of who engages with stuff. There's
Can I pause you on that one?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we talked about driving people to app downloads or sales campaigns, things like that. I think for most business owners that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Why would somebody want to do an engagement ad? Talk us through maybe a little bit. What's the purpose of just getting more engagement or pushing that type of content or those types of ads out?
So in the engagement, you're really looking for people to interact with that content to enhance the content and give it that sort of social proof, right? So the more people that can engage with a particular post or a campaign, the more social proof that campaign is going to get. So let's say I have an engagement campaign where people are liking my page more, and I go from 100 likes to 200 likes now. Obviously, Facebook sees that as a successful campaign because I've now doubled the number of likes on my page. Well, where that can transfer into additional things is the audience section. So you have to be thinking about the whole holistic thing where not only are there different types of campaigns, but there's different audiences. So I can run a campaign to people, a specific ad campaign to people that just like my page or like my Instagram account.
Is this where we get into, you had mentioned earlier, retargeting? Is this
Yep.
basically what that is?
So that's a retargeting. So the engagement campaign, in my opinion, helps with the retargeting because if I can get a bunch of video views, if I can get some likes, if I can get more messages, if I can get event responses, for example, all of those things transfer into additional things in the future that could happen. They may not turn into business right away, but I can tell you that it helps increase the visibility of a business on Facebook. So having an engagement campaign running with like $5 a day on a really cool post is probably worth it. The next maybe one that would resonate would be awareness, and that's like I'm trying to get everybody to just be aware of my business. So in that case, it's more like I'm running my television commercial. And I'm not necessarily looking to get sales, but I am looking to make sure that a lot of people know about my business, as many as possible. So that's sort of how those two sort of match up to each other. And then the last one is traffic. And traffic is I'm driving people to my website. And when you pair that with the pixel and the pixel being able to retarget website visitors, you start putting all of those things together and you execute properly on all the campaigns, all the audiences, everything that needs to be built out over a period of time. Yes, it's complicated, but once all those things are flowing, you should get some success out of what you're doing. It doesn't mean that you have to be doing all those to get success. And I mentioned getting those leads for that client, right? We're running 4 campaigns. They're all lead campaigns. There's no awareness, traffic, and engagement. And as long as those lead campaigns are continuing to bring leads in at a specific level, we don't really need to mess with the rest of it. So if you could find that golden parachute in what you're doing, just stick with that and you don't have to worry about the rest. But you asking that question of like the various campaigns, basically a boost post is an engagement campaign. So that's where the boost post would sort of fall into play here. But if you do that, you're missing out on all the other options.
Yeah, man. This for everyone that's listening. Like this is a lot of like golden nugget. It's exactly why you look for a specialist that understands this stuff. Because what I heard in there, being trained in marketing and understanding that is really, Bill just described a marketing funnel, right? You've got a whole bunch of people you're putting in towards the top, but then there's other campaigns that'll be middle of funnel, some that'll be more bottom of funnel, like, hey, come buy this right now. We always joke you don't go on a first date with somebody and ask them for marriage right away. You got to, start with, coffee and then maybe a second date, and you got to, work through this. It's really no different in marketing. We got to start with some sort of recognition or awareness. Let's get them familiar with maybe who we are, and then we can move them into maybe here's something to start watching more of, engage with these types of things, and then, further and further down the funnel. So I just wanted to really pause on that because I think it's so important to, for those that are listening, go back, listen to this again, because Bill just like gave you gold in terms of understanding the formula behind this and why it's so important to have somebody who understands how do these all connect together? How do I start to create my different audiences? As you mentioned audience in there, and you mentioned audience selection. So I know when we were working together, a while back there, you were showing me different, setting up different audiences. And there are people that go into this list because they've engaged with different things. So maybe talk just a little bit about the audience selection or why that's so important when you're setting up some of the settings within Facebook ads.
Yeah. Yeah, the interesting thing about audiences, again, most individuals that are business owners that are on Facebook don't even know that the audience section is available for them to look at. You've got multiple sources that you can pull audience data from. So, you can have the website pixel, which again allows you to retarget people that visit your website. So as long as you have that set up properly, when somebody visits your website, they basically get put into this sort of group of people that you can send another ad to. One of the ones that is not used often enough is customer lists. So like if you own a service business, right? Let's say you're a plumber or electrician and you want to market to your current customers, you can upload name, email, phone number, city, state, zip as a customer list into Facebook, and you can run an ad just to that customer list. So that's another cool one.
That would require business owners to actually have their database. So if you're listening to this and you're sitting there going like, dude, Tanner, my customer list sits in my merchant services system. It's
right.
It's sitting wherever it is. Find a way to pull that information out so you can start to track it and use it this way, because that is a gold mine of a list to use there. Bill, I appreciate you actually bringing that out, because it's a big one.
Yeah. Another really cool one is the video. So video views. Highly recommend running a video ad. So when you run these video ads, you can actually target people that watch the video for 2 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and then it goes like 25, 50, 75, 100, whatever that breakdown is. But they give you about 8 or 9 different breakdowns of ways that you can retarget people that watched your video. So again, you're taking that, as we've talked about funnels before, you're taking that top of funnel, you've got a video, you run that video maybe as an awareness campaign, right? So now it's going to hit as many people as possible. You run that video as an awareness campaign, you get as many people to watch it as possible, but then you go, okay, awareness campaign, I had 10,000 people watch the video, but I want to target the 1,000 that watched it 95% or more. There is a way to do that. You can build this audience and say 95% of the people that watch this video, I'm now going to put them into a new audience. I'm going to run a new ad to them in order to enhance their experience with my company, and hopefully at some point pick up the phone, send a message, send an email, join a list, whatever that call to action is. You have a better chance of doing that than for the people that didn't watch the video all the way to 95%. So it's like retargeting people that watch a TV commercial. And I'm sure at some point they're going to put the eye tracking on TVs that we don't even know about. And they're going to know, okay, Bill watched this commercial on TV for 30 seconds, so we're going to send him an ad tomorrow on getting the actual product. Video is another one. I mentioned Instagram, so you can target Instagram visitors or followers. You can target Facebook followers. You can target people that, I mentioned lead forms. So let's say you're running a lead ad campaign and somebody clicks on the lead form, but then they click off. You can target people that clicked on the form and did not submit the form. The data is scary, right? Everything's tracked. Everything is that we're doing in life is tracked. But you need to understand how to use these tools in order to make sure you're staying above water with everybody else that's spending billions of dollars on Facebook ads and getting frustrated. And when you could do that, the hope is that you begin to get success from it. Not overnight, but it surely can happen when you have the right system in place and you're using all these tools the way that they need to be used.
I get so excited about it. We could sit here and we could geek out on, a lot of this stuff. I love the metric side of things. I love looking at all this stuff and like translating it to different pieces, right? I've got a mentor that teaches the, from a conversation standpoint, a sales standpoint. It's like you have 3 seconds to earn 30 seconds, 30 seconds to earn 3 minutes, 3 minutes to earn 30 minutes, right? Yeah. And it's no different than if you're playing on YouTube, you're playing in the video platform side of things on a lot of these other platforms, retention graphs, right?
Yeah.
And if you've got somebody that goes 95% of the way through a video, the likelihood of them taking another action is really high compared to somebody who watched 3 seconds, right? Yeah. You've earned so much more credibility. So data's scary, but at the same time on the business side, it's really powerful to find out the people who are truly actually engaging and are interested in the stuff that you're doing. Yeah. You mentioned pixels, you mentioned some of the metrics and things like that. How do you look at downstream conversions, right? So I think when it comes to paid ads, the thing that most people maybe know is maybe CPL, cost per lead or cost per click or something like that.
Yeah.
But with enough volume, how does someone start to track further downstream? How do we track the next meeting, or maybe all the way down through sale if there's enough data coming through there? Is there a way to do that on Facebook? I know a little bit about the Google side of things and things that you can send back data, but can you do the same thing in Facebook ads if there's enough volume?
You can with Facebook ads if there's enough volume, and you can even if there isn't a lot of volume. And again, it depends on the type of ad you're running. One of the biggest struggles that we have with clients, and this goes back to exactly what you talked about a moment ago, is a lot of business owners they don't worry about the data. They don't look at the data. They are spending time running their business, trying to deal with all the challenges day in and day out. And unless you start to really point out hey, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, the wake-up call finally comes. So yes, you can track it. There are definitely ways within Facebook, especially if you're selling an item online, that item can be tracked and your return on ad spend can be tracked. A lot of the work that we do is in the service industry. So if you know anything about the service industry, they have CRMs. A lot of the business owners may not be looking at the data. Sometimes we're more successful than the business owner cares to understand or realize. So we may generate 300 leads for a roofing company in a year. Half of them may be just called once. And until we actually get on a meeting, which I did the other day with a client, and show them and really, really get down to the details, they don't understand. They say they need more leads, but they're not working the leads they have. So we've now instituted, when we work with a client, in a lot of cases, if you don't give us access to your CRM or to whatever you're using to track your customer data, I won't work with you because I've been burned too many times. So we have access, and when we have access, we look, and I have my team going in, making notes, called once, never called, not even entered into the CRM. And since we've done that, we uncovered $100,000 in business for this one company where all they needed to do was make some effort. And again, they paid for our services probably for the next 3 years, but next month they'll be like, oh, we don't have enough leads. So all of it can be tracked. Whether or not a business owner wants to really put the effort in to really dial in, that's part of the process of business ownership, entrepreneurship, and I've been guilty of it, right? I mean, there's been plenty of times where I've kicked off a campaign and we've gotten 30 leads in, and I may have not followed up with 2 or 3 of them that could have turned into clients because, again, I don't have enough touch points. I don't have my 10 to 18 touch points on getting something done.
God, isn't that such a gut check? And of course, we see this all the time too, right? And this is where it comes back to, I'm such the data guy in our business that, this is the stuff I look at all the time. But when it's, they're all called once. It's like, congratulations. It takes an average of, I want to say it's above 10 now, touch points to get a hold of somebody. That's just the world that we live in. Or, hey, we added them to the CRM, but did you tag them with a database nurture and you put them into an email sequence and do these other things, right? There's so many other components that just because you have leads doesn't mean that you've earned the right to be able to keep those leads. And that's not on the marketing company. If there's good communication, things like that there, that's actually a sales problem. And there's so much more to it. So I appreciate you mentioning that because I think it's a really important part. If anyone's looking at how do I get leads, we'll call it at scale, at a leverage point using paid ads or something else like that. There's got to be the downstream stuff that also works. Otherwise, the bottleneck's really not the leads.
100%.
So let's shift gears a little bit because I want to get into this topic of AI.
Okay.
But I think a good segue into this part of the conversation is maybe let's look at how has advertising on Facebook changed in just the last couple of years?
Yeah, it's definitely changed. It's definitely become more challenging, and I think it has to do with a multitude of things. The targeting is becoming more difficult. The laws that are in place now are becoming a little bit more challenging to deal with tracking. I think it's just, you know, we talked about the data, right? Having access to the data is becoming more challenging. The systems are more complicated, which leads to less success, especially for those small business owners. So the constant changes of Facebook making updates and having legacy things that are no longer important, valuable, or even useful, right? That's the challenge. Is sometimes we'll find things within the platform and it's like, wait a minute, this wasn't here the other day and now it's new. Facebook's not doing a great job of like updating everybody, so it's like there is no resource for Facebook. I mean, there are, but again, they're surface level, right? Not enough to train a business owner to like really be successful. So I think a lot of the challenges sort of tie into that, right? The systems are becoming more complicated, the expertise is becoming less. And it's just really, really more difficult to like dial into those very specific things that need to happen in order to be successful. So I think that's the biggest challenge at this point is as the systems become more complicated, the business owners become more frustrated. And yeah, they have, like I mentioned with the different types of campaigns, there used to be 20 and then it went to 13 and now it went to 6. It's really 6 that are still 20, but you have to have that expertise in order to like go from awareness campaign to running this funnel that retargets, that gets video views and all that. So that is, I think, just the complexity of it and adding different things on is becoming more and more difficult. So I'll pause there just for a second. I could probably add on to that though.
Well, let's shift it into let's shift it into a conversation of AI because I'm really curious. I think if there's anyone that's kind of following all the stuff that's going on with AI, you've got kind of your big players. You've got OpenAI that's got ChatGPT. You've got Anthropic that's got Claude. You've got Google that's got Gemini. But there's this thing out there that's called Meta AI that really is kind of a sleeper out there. Like I don't hear a whole bunch of talk about it, but you can't count them out. I mean, Meta, Facebook, everything that Zuckerberg basically owns. I mean, there's a lot going on there. What are you seeing on your end, being so involved in kind of the Facebook and Facebook ad type things? Is Meta AI starting to kind of play a role within there? What are you seeing?
I still think they're a little bit behind. They are trying to implement their AI on the ad creative side of things, but what I've seen so far hasn't been that great and a little bit challenging. So they are offering up when you go through the ad process, hey, let our AI generate images. My trainer in Denver has had disastrous results with it. So on the Meta AI, and I know they have their own Meta AI website, but just the whole process of Meta using AI to run better ads, I'm not convinced yet. I still think a human can build and develop a better ad plan, and a better ad process than the AI process. So I still think you're going to have business owners that go all in on that, get frustrated.
That makes sense.
To answer that question, that's the answer that I would give at this point. Um, from a broad sense of AI, just in the last 6 months, like the AI stuff that I am looking at and that I am involved with, and I see the smile on your face because you're probably doing the same thing. Like this will go back to now 99% of the people have absolutely no clue as to what is going on and the power of these platforms to provide information to a human. it it is mind-boggling at this point, and I'm using it every day. And I now have like I'm not an expert. I'm nowhere near an expert, but I can tell you if I'm going to write a book, which I've done, I'm using Claude all day long and half the night. I'm not using ChatGPT. I may use ChatGPT to like develop my ideas and to use their 4.0 plus model to like maybe build some initial stuff. But I threw a bunch of stuff into Claude recently and I was blown away. Like it was almost frightening and exciting at the same time as to like, it's like I'm talking to a person and the person can understand not only how I feel about a situation, but like it's almost impossible to explain. I think if somebody dove into it and really said, okay, I'm going to go on Claude and I'm going to pay the $20 a month for it and I'm just going to start throwing some prompts in, like, holy cow. And if you can nail down the prompts, which I have a subscription to this thing called Prompt Genie. So I put my idea in, Prompt Genie gives me the prompt, I dump that into Claude and like, holy cow. Like it is crazy. It's I don't even know how to explain it. Other than to say I was around in 1990 when the internet kicked in and I had to set up, PCs at KU when I was there in 1991 and get internet set up there and we were all blown away. I'm getting that same weird feeling in my stomach of like, holy cow, this is going to revolutionize a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I'm all in on all AI now. I may be an AI trainer in 2 years instead of a digital marketing owner. I'm not joking.
That's an interesting take because I think that there's going to be so many things that are going to be adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of and over or.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of things that are, this is going to amplify things, it's going to force us to do things a little bit differently.
Yep.
I too am all in on it. I also feel like there's no other way to be because it's not going away.
Yeah.
I might as well learn this stuff and figure out the best way to use it. But it's very fascinating, and it's fascinating to see, these companies, building the tools, right? So obviously we know Google, we know Meta, but Anthropic, OpenAI, and OpenAI, this one was really fascinating to me. So I sent you a video yesterday of, another great name in the marketing space, Daniel Priestley, and he had this, 12-minute Instagram reel where he was talking about kind of his thoughts on the ChatGPT 5 model that'll be coming out here in a few months. And what was really interesting that I wanted your take on was that it's possible that OpenAI decides to get into the ad revenue game. And if they do, even if it's just a little bit and it's not like massive in terms of, I'm going to do something different than, Facebook or Google or different things like that, but simply by being that big and knowing how much search has shifted to these chat platforms,
yes,
a lot on ChatGPT, but some of the others as well, simply by entering the market will pull revenue away from, or potentially could pull revenue away from Facebook, could pull revenue away from Google or Alphabet overall. And what could that do to cost of Facebook ads? What would that do to kind of the all downstream effects? So I thought this was really interesting. I thought I'd send it to you and kind of get your take on it since you're in this space a lot more than I am.
Yep.
What are your thoughts? What's your take on that?
I mentioned early on in this conversation that I'm shifting. So I have not Googled anything in probably 2 months. If I have something I need to search for, I need to look for, I go to ChatGPT and I go, I'm looking for this, help me out, and it immediately gives me results that I'm looking for that I don't have to click on a bunch of links and go to. So it's going to take a while for this to roll through the entire country / world, but I think the adoption process for a lot of these things for almost everything is shrinking, right? So that time frame for somebody to be introduced to something, to using it, is becoming a lot less condensed. So while it may have taken, many, many years for somebody to implement something, right? Whether let's say it's a telephone, for example, right? All of a sudden now telephones, and we're watching 1923 right now, or we just finished it. So that show 1923, they're out in Montana and they're like, this phone thing is happening and this is happening, and it's just weird, like watching people going, oh, I can now call somebody, and it's like just it like kicked in my thought process of like all these things over the years being implemented. So I think the process of people using it is going to be condensed. I do think the potential is there if they do start running ad revenue and beginning to. I just submitted my book to ChatGPT to get approved for being searchable / running ads or whatever, right? As content. And there's a way to do that on ChatGPT. I don't know what the link is right now, but somebody that I look to train is providing some of that content to me. So I think that process is going to be disruptive. I don't know if it's going to affect Facebook as much as it potentially could affect Google. I know Google has Maps, so I think Maps is still going to remain strong as far as like me going to Maps and typing in restaurant. But as far as me going to Google and typing restaurant, I'm done with that. Reviews are obviously still important, so there'll be an aspect there of whether or not a business is valid that ChatGPT provides back to me. Maybe there's some scammers out there that start to interject their bad stuff into the results. So we'll have to see how the quality of results come to fruition. So that will be interesting. But I definitely feel like things are going to change rapidly. And again, we're in it, right? So I don't know if I have a way to say a year from now it's going to change to this, but it is going to change. And going back to my business owner having trouble understanding how to build, run, and manage Facebook ads, can you imagine them trying to implement 2 or 3 different large language models to build things that they need built that, they don't know how to do it, but their competitors are doing it, right? Yeah. So a competitor can come in and build a whole system that drops their customer acquisition cost and maybe lowers their ability to provide the service. And now all of a sudden the competition is like, well, shoot, I didn't keep up, and now I'm getting I'm getting beat up hard because I didn't think about this stuff ahead of time. So people need to be thinking, like, you gotta be like just diving in and learning this stuff.
I'm gonna try to tie a few things together because I think this is really fascinating, and obviously would love kind of your thoughts and things like that. When I think about some of the things you just mentioned, you're right. I think Google as a search that's where they're probably going to take the biggest hit. That would be my guess. However, the flip side is, the second largest search engine forever has been YouTube, and YouTube traditionally are going in for how to do this or how to do that, which that is more intent, like really intent based on how to do something, which definitely is getting, call it, eaten up by these chatbots.
Yep.
But the flip side here is, at least in my experience, a lot of what's being returned is, hey, here's also that YouTube video on how to do it.
Yep.
So you're still getting that level of search results that's pulling you over to that same platform.
Yep.
And I want to tie this kind of all the way back because I know this isn't really our conversation wasn't on search terms and keywords, but I was listening to a little bit the other day, and when you run Google Ads, you do different things like that. You can see the keywords, you can see the phrases and things like that people are searching for. You won't get that on the chat platforms because there's so much sensitive information and data that's being plugged into these because it feels very personal when you're typing into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get that same level of information back.
Yep.
But what I find fascinating, and a lot of the search that AI is doing today is just doing Google search just better than a human would be. So it's still pulling some of the same keywords as it is today, at least. Now, I don't know if that's going to be forever because it is a lot more intent based. But one thing that I think happened this year, if I'm not mistaken, is Google is now categorized or cataloged Instagram. And they're showing Instagram stuff is now showing up in search.
Yes.
So you tie this all the way back to Facebook ads and meta ads and different things like that. Logically in my brain, with a lot of those ads being, I'm testing and creating content all the time, and then I'm choosing which of those creatives I'm going to put into a proper ad and all of that kind of thing. Wouldn't it logically make sense that we still need to be spending just as much time focused on Facebook and Instagram and having our names or our business tied to that? Because if you're going to be typing into any level of search thing, and if those things are being cataloged, that's what's going to be served.
Yep. I agree. And now it seems like almost like a juggling for position type thing, right? Like it's well beyond my pay grade to figure out what all these companies are doing to position themselves to continue to bring in the billions of dollars in revenue they all bring in. But I do feel like Google making that decision really changes things. Like, holy cow, you never would have thought that one company that was competing with another would start to show results. And how does that play into like how a business advertises and keeping eyes on all these platforms, right? So I don't know.
It's fascinating stuff.
Often, but
yeah, I love it. It's a game that's just kind of really fun to kind of keep tabs on. And every once in a while, I will Google my name just to see what pops up. I think that's a good practice for anybody to do.
I just did it earlier today.
I think for the first time, like one of the first videos that pops up, because you can choose like long form or short form videos now. And one of the first short form videos that pops up was not a YouTube short; it was an Instagram reel. It's like, that's interesting. And there's just as much probably content on both anymore, because we post on both platforms, but it got prioritized. And I just thought that was really interesting to see. And although I have not seen any short form video format pop up in search that I do on ChatGPT, it's still only been long form YouTube that traditionally has popped up. For me, at least. I mean, that's just what I've seen. So it'll be interesting to see how that all evolves. I think the AI thing is just so fascinating. I love getting everybody's take on it, depending on different industries and things like that. But as we kind of bring this conversation to a close, I had a couple of questions I thought would be interesting to kind of hear how you're doing things today, and maybe some advice that you got for the audience. But there's a lot going on, right? You're playing around with different AI tools. You're playing around with trying to keep up with all the things in all things Meta, Facebook, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. How do you stay on top of these trends? Like, what are you reading certain things? Do you have people that you go to and ask questions? Is it a mix of all of that? Their podcasts? Like, how do you stay on top of these trends?
Yeah. So for me, I really try to dial in the specific things that I'm interested in, and make a point to subscribe to their newsletters, to be interactive with them. On AI, there's a couple people I follow. Found them all on TikTok. So we didn't even talk about TikTok, but TikTok to me, like, I'm a consumer of it. I haven't started running ads on it. I haven't started doing anything on it, but I do believe that platform is fairly powerful, and the way that they've set that thing up is just, it is kind of addicting, but it's everything they've done on it is really good. So I follow a guy named Nate, and I can't remember what his handle is, but Nate does a lot of AI stuff. A guy named Jonathan Mast is like, I follow him on TikTok and on Facebook. So he's an older gentleman that I can kind of relate to and puts out a ton of great content. I'm on his newsletter. And then there's another lady named Sabrina, I think it's Romanov, and she built a platform called Blotato. I don't know why she called it that, but I think she sold it for like a couple $1 million, get a ton of great content on that. So that's the AI side of things. Those are 3 people that I follow AI. Essentially, my trainer for Facebook is just one person. His name is John Loomer. He's out of Denver, and I've been in his program. I believe that I was his first paying customer on an annual membership 14 years ago when he built johnloomer.com, and now he has something called Power Hitters Club. And I had followed him for like a year and a half when I started my agency. And at some point he said, you know what, I'm going to turn this into a paid system. If anybody wants to buy in, literally I had it up and I paid right away. And I've been a paying customer for 14 years straight. So I really focus on that one trainer. I do obviously have other resources that are, newsletters and different things within the context of social media. But going back to straight as an arrow, rifle approach, he gives me everything I need to know on a weekly basis, by the way, with all the updates, changes, and things happening with Facebook. I don't need to pay attention to 10 different people. I just need one person. So in that case, it's one person. And that's my plan. And I consume information on a daily basis from multiple newsletters and have a Trello board, and I've got follow-up Gmail stuff, and my brain hurts half the time, but it's good. It keeps me excited for things that I'm working on, and really keeps me excited for like what I want to do in the future. So that's really where I'm at right now.
That's cool. Before I get to the final question,
Yeah.
to kind of leave the audience with, you've shown us so much information and why it's so important for folks that are thinking about running Facebook ads specifically to have somebody who's truly versed in understanding that world.
Yeah.
So where can the audience go to actually connect with you and maybe get some time with No Time for Social?
Yeah, so obviously our website's notimeforsocial.com. If anybody reaches out to me at bill@notimeforsocial, I usually offer up a free 30-minute consult to anybody, right? We can hop on, you can tell me, here's the 10 challenges I'm having. I'll give you 30 minutes of my time just because I love to give back. So those two ways are the best ways. I'm very active on LinkedIn, pretty active on Facebook, Instagram, and not really active on TikTok, but I have an account. But yeah, LinkedIn, my website, my email are probably the main ways to reach out to me. And I'm active in the community. So if you're local based here in Round Rock, you'll see me. I'm on the chamber board as you are as well. So we do a lot of work together with that. I'm the vice chair of entrepreneurship. So lots of really cool, fun things happening there. So yeah, that covers it, I think.
Well, I do encourage the audience to connect, even if it's just send a quick email and say, hey, saw the conversation, lots of great nuggets, and maybe work together one day. I can't encourage that enough. These conversations are really important, especially with what's coming. Clearly, you can tell Bill is ahead of the game in terms of what he's continuing to learn about and think about, and keeping things relevant there. So, Bill, to really land the plane, when you think about all the things that we've covered today, what's one piece of advice that you would leave the audience in today's world? What's one thing that you'd like to leave them with today that is a piece of advice or something that they can walk away with and keep in mind?
My biggest piece of advice to business owners, anybody in a position where they need to make decisions and they don't have all the information, is to ask for help. Like in the world we live in today, there's no way you are going to learn and know everything. So if you can't summon the ability to ask for help, you're going to be constantly running into a brick wall trying to figure stuff out when the answers may be there pretty quickly for you, or you may need to pay somebody just for some simple consulting time in order to get questions answered that are easily answered, but just not in your wheelhouse. Whether you YouTube it, you Google it, you ChatGPT it, you're still like, man, I just can't pull this together. I just don't understand it. And there are experts out there that will help. I love helping people. So I think business owners starting a business, building a business, or running a business need to be able to build within their network of people that they're connected to, get referrals for people to help. And most business owners and consultants, I would consider myself /a consultant/business owner, and even yourself, right? we want to help people. And if we can help people and that turns into a referral or maybe a little consulting revenue for us, we're grateful for that to happen because we know that the world is crazy, and I'm always grateful to be interacting with people. So that would be my biggest piece of advice is if you need help, just ask. A lot of people will help. And if they don't, move on to the next person that might help you.
Oh, I love that so much. I mean, it's I have never encountered someone that's been super successful who has not shortcut their learning by having conversations with people who know more than they do.
Yeah.
By asking for help and going to do that. I mean, that is the name of the game. So I absolutely love that. Bill, this has been so much fun.
Yeah.
I appreciate, all the topics we've gotten into and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to say thank you so much for sitting down and allowing us to get into this conversation. Hopefully the audience found as much value as I did from this. But I just want to say thank you again for taking the time.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be a part of your ecosystem and continue to work hand in hand with you on various things. So thanks, Tanner. Appreciate it.